It's time for my quarter two TBR.
April showers, May flowers, and June pride. Honestly, this TBR kind of ended up being mostly inspired by June pride. I'm not really sure what April showers or May flowers really means as far as genre or theme for books, so that kind of made it easy for me. Though I suppose maybe we could have gone with like sadness for showers and growth for flowers, but maybe we'll get some of that anyways. Hi, hello, welcome in. I'm Jarek and I'm an editor, writer, and all-around content creator. And I love to discuss what I'm reading through those lenses, as well, of course, as through the lens of a reader for the pure enjoyment and entertainment of reading. As a quick reminder for, or perhaps an introduction to, the way that I've set up my TBRs this year, each quarter will contain at least one nonfiction book, at least one collection or anthology, at least one novel over 300 pages. This quarter, it's actually most of the books. And I'm aiming to have at least one read for my Okay Fine I'll Read series, which is basically just popular books that I have yet to read that I feel like I probably should. But basically, I'm bad at keeping up with trends. But I think it's important for a lot of reasons. Generally, I will have 5 to 6 books chosen with some wiggle room for DNFs and some wildcard reads. These lists will also often have some sort of theme or chosen genre to kind of go along with the vibes of the quarter. Though not every book will meet that criteria, hence the wild cards. So, without further ado, we say farewell to the wintry romance vibes of quarter one and hello to queer stories of all kinds in quarter two. First, we'll look at the nonfiction read I've chosen for this quarter. This is an interesting one because it's also a graphic novel. It's called Fun Home, a family tragicomic. It's by Alison Bechdel, and like I said, it's a graphic novel. So I'm excited to read this for a lot of reasons, but before we talk about that, we'll read the cover copy. Is there a cover copy for this? Kind of. Is there better cover copy somewhere? Or is that all we get? I think that might be all we get. Okay. In this groundbreaking, best-selling graphic memoir, Alison Bechdel charts her fraught relationship with her late father. In her hands, personal history becomes a work of amazing subtlety and power, written with controlled force and enlivened with humor, rich literary allusion, and heartbreaking detail. So part of the reason this one was chosen is obviously because it has some queer themes in it, just by virtue of it being written by a queer person, it being a memoir, and particularly about it being her, like, growing up. And so, from what I understand, it kind of delves into like her experience of like coming out and things like that. Obviously, I haven't read it, and this is kind of like off the top of my head remembering what other people have said it's about, because the cover copy doesn't really talk about that fact. But it is a fact. I don't think this will be the first book I'll read, unlike last quarter where I read my nonfiction book first. But I haven't really decided what I'm going to start reading yet. I have probably like 10 more pages in what I'm currently reading to decide what comes first. I may even try to sprinkle this throughout my reading, since it is a graphic novel and also the nonfiction book where I feel like I can read a fiction and a nonfiction beside each other. But this has been like... this has been recommended a lot when people are looking for queer stories to read, so it was kind of a no-brainer. I did buy this new from my favorite local bookshop. If you were following me last year, you know that I was reading only things that I already had on my shelves. That is not the case this year. I am still trying to finish what I have on my shelves, obviously, so if things kind of like fit the themes that I'm going for, I am pulling stuff from my shelves, but this was a new purchase. Next, I'm going to talk about the collection or anthology, which is currently undecided, and I'm hoping that you guys can help me figure out what I'm going to do about this. So I have lots on my shelves. I may just pull something from there rather than getting something to go with the theme. However, I am also considering picking up a literary magazine to read, preferably one that I can get in hard copy. If you have suggestions for queer literary magazines, particularly Canadian, if you have those suggestions, I'd love to hear. I do have a couple that are kind of on my radar, but like I said, I haven't decided yet. So that's kind of an opening in my TBR, and I'm hoping the community can help me fill it. I'll throw in maybe a picture of all of the collections that I currently have, and that way you kind of know what I'm choosing from, but there's a lot of options if I don't pick something up for this. Now, I did say most of my books are over 300 pages this time around, so what I did for my one over 300 pages is I chose the largest book to go in this slot for the TBR, which is this guy here, The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. Let's read the cover copy and then we'll get into it. I'm assuming it's on the inside for me here. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, wow. Okay. Holy work sometimes requires unholy deeds. Brother Diaz has been summoned to the sacred city, where he is certain a commendation and grand holy assignment awaits him. But his new flock is made up of unrepentant murderers, practitioners of ghastly magic, and outright monsters. The mission he is tasked with will require bloody measures from them all in order to achieve its righteous ends. Elves lurk at our borders and hunger for our flesh, while greedy princes care for nothing but their own ambitions and comfort. With an epic, hellish journey before him, it's a good thing Brother Diaz has the devils on his side. Before we continue, I think it's appropriate to explore just how pretty this is. So the cover is pretty, but what actually got me was the inside cover here, which is making me want to check out the back inside cover. Does it also have art? It does. So there's some more art for you to check out. This is a book that has been recommended to me by two people. And the second person read it because of the recommendation of the first, I believe, or at least a recommendation of the author. I know that he had originally been recommended a trilogy by Joe Abercrombie and then picked this one up. I think it was on recommendation still, but I'm very excited to read it, if only to be able to talk to those two people about it, because they both absolutely loved it. It may not seem it at first glance, but I did ask, because there are a bunch of books that we have that my partner keeps telling me I have to read. And so I asked, do any of the books that you're asking me to read, that you're recommending to me, do any of them have queer representation in them? And he was like, The Devils! So, that's how this one ended up on here. It's possible this is my next read. I really haven't decided what I'm reading next. But I have people bothering me to read this one, and it does sound really interesting. It's been kind of described to me as being like Suicide Squad-ish, because it's a bunch of, like monsters and unholy people going to do like a good thing, means to an end kind of story. I've also just heard really good things about the way that Abercrombie writes, and so I'm interested in that. And rather than trying to jump into another series, because I did start Court of Thorns and Roses, and I might continue that series, we'll see. Doing a standalone book by Abercrombie was something that, like, I was like, yeah, that seems like the right call to start my journey with him. So yeah, I'm really excited about this because I've had people around me excited about it for a while, because my friend read it, and then recommended it to my partner, and then my partner read it. So like the whole time that both of them were reading it, they were like sending like spoilered messages in a Discord back and forth, and I'm like, I want to be a part of the conversation. So obviously there's like a lot to discuss about it, so that excites me. Yeah, so that's that one. And then we have kind of just like the rest of the books. So I guess technically there is one more category. There's the okay, fine, I'll read, which I do have a book for. So I don't know why I was kind of like jumping ahead of that. The okay, fine, I'll read is... Which one of you is it? It's this one. Is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn... Yeah, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, by Taylor Jenkins Reid. We'll read the cover copy and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. Reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant to write her story, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. Determined to use this opportunity to jumpstart her career, Monique listens in fascination. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s, to leaving show business in the 80s, and of course the seven husbands along the way, Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great forbidden love. But as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it's become clear that her life intersects with Monique's own in tragic and irreversible ways. Written with Reid's signature talent for creating complex, likable characters, this is a mesmerizing journey through the splendor of old Hollywood into the sobering realities of the present day as two women struggle with what it means and what it costs to face the truth. So again, that doesn't seem like a queer story, but it is tagged as LGBTQI+ on Storygraph. It is a historical literary romance, and I'll be honest, I had no idea what I was getting into until just now. I picked this up purely on knowing that it was a popular book and remembering one of the booktubers that I watched talking about it and really enjoying it. But like it hadn't sunk into my brain what it was about, and I guess I didn't read it when I picked this up. This was another one of my recent purchases from the bookstore. So now I'm really interested in what the structure of this is going to be like, and also I have this weird, because obviously like it's being told at least somewhat in like from an interview, right? Like it's the writer and the actress having conversations. I don't know how conversational it's written. We'll find out. But it reminded me that during the first writing battle that I did this year, that I like judged this year, there were a lot of experimental kind of structures to it, and a lot of them were like interviews. Some of them were diary entries, but some of them were like diary entries, but kind of like in a journalistic way. And so that kind of just like, I don't know, just, you know, sparked my brain. This does sound really interesting. Of course, I'm very interested to see it unravel how they are attached to each other, how they've intersected in the past. I'm curious to see how the queerness comes out, because again, it's not very obvious considering it appears to be a woman marrying a bunch of men. Not that like sexuality is the only queer identity that is available, like gender and whatever. You know what I'm saying. You guys know. Yeah, I'm really interested in what the structure of this is going to be like, I think is the thing that is most intriguing to me. Next, let's talk about Monstrilio by Gerardo, Sarmano, Cordova. This one it was recommended by the same booktuber that I was saying was talking about The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. We don't always agree on books, so I mean, just because she likes it doesn't mean I'm going to. But also recommended by the same friend who recommended The Devils and Perfection, actually, from... You won't necessarily know I've read that yet, I think. I don't know. That's definitely going to be in the March reading recap, though, if I didn't talk about starting it in the February reading recap, which I might have. But that was also recommended by that same friend. This one, I had posted what books I was planning on purchasing from the bookstore, and this one he got really excited about. So I'm excited to read this one and discuss it with him. Also, another one, oh, I didn't read the gosh dang thing. I just got excited about it. Okay, let's read the gosh dang thing and we'll come back to that. After her son dies, Megos carves out a small piece of his lung to save for herself. Acting on fierce maternal instinct and the dubious logic of an old folktale, she nurtures the lung until it gains sentience, growing into a carnivorous little monstrilio that she keeps hidden within the walls of her decaying childhood home in Mexico City. But despite her best efforts to turn the monster she created into a man, Monstrilio's innate impulses threaten to destroy his fragile second chance at life. A meditation on grief, acceptance, and the monstrous sides of love and loyalty, Gerardo Sarmano Cordova's ambitious debut spans the globe from Brooklyn to Berlin, offering a cathartic and precise portrait of being human. So what I was going to say is, again, not obviously a queer story, but it is tagged as having queer themes. I do wonder if it's more allegory than outright, because I wonder if it's kind of like an allegory of like trying to turn Monstrilio into the man that the mother expects him to be, kind of thing. So that's curious. But that is part of the reason that it ended up in this TBR, because originally I was buying Monstrilio to be in, I guess, fourth quarter for October. Because obviously it's a monster story. Monster stories go in October. But I like monsters and I like horror. So if I can spread that out through the year, that does make me happy. So I'm happy that this also falls into queer rep or queer themes or maybe a queer writer. I'm not sure. That's always a possibility. Didn't look into it because it was tagged with it and I said yes. But this one, I love the idea of monsters but done different. So like if you can take zombies and do zombies different than I've seen them before, take a vampire and do vampires different than I've seen them before, that's something that I'm really, really interested in, and I plan on doing videos on this. So if you have suggestions for monsters done different, let me know. I do have a zombie one already. I believe I have a vampire one, but I'd like more of those if you want to send them to me, kind of thing. Asking for a lot of recommendations in this one. But, I mean, I'm always looking for recommendations. As much as my TBR is way too big already, I always want to know more, especially since I would like more like recently written things too. That's something that I feel like I miss sometimes. It's definitely gotten better in the last little bit. But I did have just like a lot of like classics and just like old books, like not necessarily classics, but like books that have been on my TBR for a really long time and I haven't gotten around to, that have now become like, you know, decades old kind of thing. But that's Monstrilio. I'm excited about this one. The idea that we're doing like a vampire-ish creature in a different way, and that it's based on folklore, and it's based on folklore that I don't think I know anything about, which is interesting, because obviously if it's based, like if things are like retellings of folklore that I already know, then like I'm not, like I'm interested in seeing how they're being retold, but this one is just like completely all new for me, and that's also a very exciting thing to me. So those are the ones that like I'm like definitely reading. Well, I mean, like definitely reading. It's a lot of pages, and I'm not a very quick reader. We've been over this. That's also part of the reason why we're doing quarter-long TBRs instead of month-long TBRs. So now we get into some of the ones that are kind of like on my mind to kind of fill in spaces, or if I get through all of these, then they'll be good. The first one I want to talk about is this one. It's Brebeuf's Ghost by Daniel David Moses. The reason that this one, there's a couple reasons why this one is kind of like at the top of my we might read this quarter. So the first reason I'll say is the author is a queer Canadian author, so it fits into both June and July. And July being at the beginning of a quarter, I would like to try to read some Canadian stuff before that, so that I can kind of do like a second reading Canadian authors like I did last July, because you guys really liked that. So I kind of want to do the same sort of video again, but I want to have some new material for it. So having this kind of fit into both and be a bridge between June and July is interesting. Part of it also is this adds another type of novel, or another type of book, because it's a play, not like a prose fiction novel. So that would then put a graphic novel, a play, and then like regular novels, and then also maybe a literary magazine, which feels different than an anthology or collection. So we'll see how that goes. So I didn't read the thing. I did so well for the first couple. Let's read the cover, and I don't know, maybe I'll be fixing these and putting them at the front of the thing. We'll see what happens. We'll see what editing magic I can do. 1649 brings bad news to the Ojibwa communities of Lake Nipissing. The Iroquois, or Iroquois, I was always taught Iroquois growing up, but now I just assume that that's been, like, Frenchified. Anyways, because of where I live. The Iroquois are on the warpath, killing traders and Christians at the mission of Sainte Marie. Guess who is going to be next? The shaman is worried about Wendigos, the black robe about the fires of hell. Worlds collide in renowned First Nations playwright Daniel David Moses's epic, dark, funny, and finally healing vision of early Canada. I feel like I struggled to read that so bad. But I find this like idea of the story really interesting, because it's clearly like a clash of, white man and the Ojibwa community, as well as between Native communities, as well as just the idea of like the two different belief systems, which feels slightly different than like just the two communities. I think I'm in the same spot. Obviously, my computer died. We don't have very much more to go, but that was very rude. I think I was pretty much done talking about this. Basically, I think it's looking at some really interesting conflicts, and I don't really read a lot of plays, so that's like adding to like the interestingness of it as well. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy reading a play. It's been a long time since I've read one. I read a couple in university as like part of my English courses, but I certainly haven't read one since then. I don't even remember which ones I read. I still have them, so maybe I'll throw in a list of the couple of plays that I remember reading. And then, of course, we read Shakespeare in like high school. Okay. Other possible additions. I said that there might be a second nonfiction read, which is this one, Enter Whining. It's a memoir by Fran Drescher. I grew up watching The Nanny. I really like The Nanny. I really like Fran Drescher. So this is kind of just like an interesting one. I don't know if it has... Is that the... I guess this is kind of cover. Yeah, let's read this. Okay. Known and loved by millions around the world as The Nanny, Fran Drescher, in her inimitable voice and eye-popping outfits, has, for the first time, detailed her outrageous climb up the show business ladder. In Enter Whining, Fran, fresh, funny, and fantastic as ever, tells the backstage story of her transformation from Flushing girl to the Queen of Queens. From her long and happy marriage to her high school sweetheart and co-producer Peter Mark Jacobson, to her hysterical face-to-face encounters on and off the set with stars like Robin Williams, Warren Beatty, Barbra Streisand, Jay Leno, David Letterman, Howard Stern, and many more, Fran dishes like nobody else can. The hilarious anecdotes and never-before-seen snapshots from Fran's family album, you'll feel like you've spent an afternoon with a best friend. Whether she's schmoozing Diana, Prince of Wales, recalling her wildly entertaining wedding from hell, pitching her show idea to a network exec 47,000 feet in the air, revealing her secrets to staying thin, wait till you see the chubby photos, or traveling the world with her beloved dog Chester, Fran Drescher has shopped in the bargain basement of failure and sparkled in the 4-star suite of success. So relax, grab a nosh, put your feet up, and get ready for a side-splitting, one-of-a-kind ride with America's sexiest funny lady, Fran Drescher. Charming, delightful, and irreverent, Fran Drescher tells a great story, especially when it's her own. So I think that's just going to be a fun one. Obviously, the, talking about her, staying thin and wait till you see the chubby photos is a little perhaps of its time. I'm not sure when this was published, but, looks like 96. So yeah, a little of its time perhaps, and maybe a little back in its time, but we're not going to get into that here. This is really just, this was one that I picked up during the fill a bag with books sale that I did back in November for my birthday. This was in there, and I literally just grabbed it. I was like, Fran Drescher, okay. So that's why that exists. It doesn't necessarily fit the theme, but it's a possibility. I feel like it might be a pretty quick read. It might get read this quarter. We'll see. The final from my current shelves, possible read to fill in some time, which will also, I think, go into the okay, fine, I'll read. And this one, unless you've seen it in my hand over here, maybe I'll blur it out. This one may surprise you, because I've never read The Hunger Games. And this was actually in my box to donate. And then it came up in conversation, and I was convinced that I should take it out of that box and read it instead. So that's really why it's here. I feel like most people know this one, but we're going to read the back cover of it anyways. It says, in the ruins of a place once known as North America lies the nation of Panem, a shining capital surrounded by 12 outlying districts. The capital is harsh and cruel and keeps the districts in line by forcing them all to send one boy and one girl between the ages of 12 and 18 to participate in the annual Hunger Games, a fight to the death on live TV. 16-year-old Katniss Everdeen regards it as a death sentence when she steps forward to take her sister's place in the games. But Katniss has been close to death before. Nope. Katniss has been close to dead before, and survival for her is second nature. Without really meaning to, she becomes a contender. But if she is to win, she will have to start making choices that weigh survival against humanity and life against love. I have seen the movie, so I am interested to see how much more exists and how different it is to read it. I'll probably rewatch the movie afterwards, but I haven't seen any, I've only seen the first in the series, and obviously I've read none in the series. And I know that another book just came out last year and a new movie is coming out this year. So maybe we try to speed read all of them. I don't know if I'll be able to fit that in before November, but we'll see what happens. I'm not interested in this book. I just figured, the reason it was in my donate is because I just figured I wouldn't get around to it with all of the other things that I want to read, but obviously I've been persuaded otherwise now. It is in a category of books that I really like. Maybe part of it, too, was that I have already seen the movies, so do I really need to read the book? I don't know, there were a lot of things. So This may get read this quarter. I think for sure it's going to get read before November. But that does leave it for quarter 3 or early quarter 4, technically. So we'll see what happens. And that's all the books. That's all the books for this quarter. The first 4 are the 99.9% sure we will read those ones, and then the kind of last 3 are the maybes. They're also kind of on the shorter side, particularly the play, so it might just be like, I need a break in between 2 large novels, we'll read this play instead. Yeah. Okay, I need to somehow look at my script without moving my computer, which is plugged in at the furthest it can be without being anywhere near me. I don't think there's anything particularly interesting in it, but I do need to look at it quick. Yeah, basically it says, and that's the TBR. Let me know if any of these books are ones you've loved, hated, or perhaps are currently on your own TBR. Let me know what you plan on reading in the coming weeks, or maybe what you're reading right now. If you do have suggestions, what are things I asked for in this one? I asked for queer literary magazines, or literary journals, and I asked for any monsters that are done a little differently. So that's like, you know, zombies or werewolves or vampires or anything like that. And they don't necessarily have to be called those things in their stories either, but anytime that it's like one of those things that's a little bit different, I'm looking for suggestions for that. And I guess I'll put out a third recommendation search for books that have been really popular in the last couple of years that you haven't seen me read yet. And I think that's it. Keep an eye out for the monthly reading recaps coming up. And if you want more regularly, definitely check out my Instagram for regular discussions on reading as well as writing and editing. And that's it. So I hope you guys had fun. I had a blast. Catch you next time. Bye. Candy. A meditation. Squeak. Reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn. Hello, Ignatius.